Hello and welcome to the Battling Barrow. At the start of last year I decided I wanted to play D&D again, Dungeons and Dragons, and started to make plans on getting a group together, and I figured as my campaign unfolded I could create terrain for it and make videos about that terrain creation process. It'll be good for the channel. But as we all know, last year no one's plans went as they expected due to the situation that's affecting us all. We could have done it via a virtual tabletop such as Roll20 or the like, but I prefer to have my gaming sessions in person, so I kept that idea at the back of my head. Now, you may not have noticed this on the channel, but I have done a lot of work on the dungeon tiles for the game. In fact, I've gone over many different systems. Now, don't worry, I am finally happy with the ones I will be using, which is in the most recent dungeon tile videos. And I've also done other terrain projects and videos for terrain pieces that I think could be of use in a game. But now it's time to start planning in earnest, as where I live things seem to be getting a bit better with people getting vaccinated, and hopefully soon I can have a gaming group at the Battling Barrow again. This year in terrain videos I keep mentioning about creating my own town, and this is what this video is going to be about me starting that process. There won't be any crafting in this video, but it could lead to terrain projects that I can make in the future. Now, would I set this town up every session that players visit town? No. This is more just my own fun, really, but I could set up areas of it if I feel like there's going to be an important encounter there, or even just for immersion purposes. Before I start though, I need to talk about which system I'm going to be running. The obvious answer is 5e, as it's the latest rule set, and whilst for the most part it's a solid set of rules, there is a lot I don't like about it, such as quick player leveling, too many hit points for players and monsters and the like. So I will be running Beckme, but there will be a few house rules pulled in from 5th, such as advantage and disadvantage. There's just something I like about Beckme. It was the first D&D rule set I used after all. The one thing I will be changing about it though is I'll be using ascending armor class rather than descending. For those who don't know, with Beckme, the lower the armor class the better, and then you'd roll a d20 and look up what you need to hit on a table based on that armor class. So for this I'm going to be pulling in the system used in basic fantasy RPG rule set. In the expert rulebook on page 28 there is a section for the Dungeon Master about designing the wilderness, so this page will be useful in the world building stage. It has steps to take to build your game world, so let's go through those steps. Step 1. Choose a setting. Now that I have what rule set I'll be using, it's time to think about what campaign setting my town will reside in. The way I look at it is I have 3 options. The first being to use Beckme's default set of Mystara. This was my first ever experience with a D&D campaign setting. This is a setting that takes many influences from our own world from many different cultures and times, such as Native Americans and Arabian Middle East. But the main starting area is Keramikos, which is a medieval Slavic Eastern Europe type setting. The nice thing about this setting is there are a lot of unexplored areas and unnamed towns and settlements that are great for you to put your own stamp upon the game world and plonk down your own village. There are also many modules for that setting that I've always wanted to run, such as Keep on the Borderlands and Castle Caldwell. The next is to use the Forgotten Realms. I love this setting for its rich history and background, and really enjoy reading novels set there and playing video games based on it. Ironically, when it comes to a D&D setting, I always find it not really suitable. I guess this is down to everything being so well defined, there is very little room for you to put your own stamp on things. Also, it's full of these really powerful NPC characters. It always seems a bit wonky that your low level heroes have to deal with all the dangers when there's these high level NPCs that can do it with ease. The third option is to create my own setting. I would have complete freedom to do what I like then. There is a danger though that because of that I'll have nothing to begin with. So if my players go off piste in a defined setting, I have maps and information to be able to handle that. But in my own setting, I'd have to make stuff up on the fly unless I define the entire world beforehand, which is not something I really want to do. If I went down this route, I'd want to organically create the world as we go. What about adventures? I would have to create them all, and I couldn't use campaign setting modules, or could I? The nice thing about the BECME modules, apart from a few such as B6 The Veiled Society or B10 Night's Dark Terror, they are very bare bones setting wise, designed to be played in almost any setting. Take probably the most famous module, B2 Keep on the Borderlands. This has been placed in multiple campaign settings such as Mystara, Greyhawk and even the Forgotten Worlds, with very little need to change the adventure to suit. This means I could take those modules I've wanted to run and drop them into my campaign world, giving me many ready to run adventures as well as creating my own. So I think I'm going to create my own campaign setting. I love medieval history, particularly that of my own country of England, and bizarrely it's a setting that hasn't really been used much. I know this sounds strange to say, most other medieval settings or inspired settings are based on Europe's, so like Karamikos is Slavic, Warhammer has influences from France in Bretonnia and Germany in the Empire, but England is really largely unused, so I'll be pulling in how its society worked, its myths, legends and folklore for the more fantastical elements. There is a downside to creating my own setting, and that is the lack of discovery for me. I love reading about fantasy world settings, reading lore books and finding out something new about the setting. I always feel like some sort of scholar reading ancient lore in some old library. Step 2. Draw maps of the area. This step talks about designing the wilderness area, but I will come back to this at a later date as I want to concentrate on the town for now. I will be using a scale of 1 hex for 6 miles for this map though. Step 3. Place the hometown and local dungeons. I'm going to place the town in the centre of the map, and I'm going to place the ruined keep in the hex next to it as a potential starting dungeon. This could be the previously mentioned keep for Castle Caldwell module that I want to run. To draw the map, I'm going to use a piece of software called Worldographer, which allows you to design hex maps, towns and dungeons. There is a free version available too. So I will create a new world map and recreate the hex grid that's in the expert set. So I'll set it to 20 by 30 and size the hexes to be uniform sized at 46 by 46 pixels. The orientation is rows line up. The software can also generate terrain and features for you, but I will leave it blank for my purposes. I'm going to put down a town feature using the classic feature set in the centre of the map at hex 009.015 and then put a settlement ruin at 010.014. With that, the world building has begun. Steps 4 and 5 are placing human and demi-human controlled areas around the town, which I will return to at a later date. Step 6. Describe the town. For now, I am going to move on to step 6 and describe the town. I want this to be a small town, so I will pick a population of just 1,000 for now. This may increase as time goes on and the town grows. So what about a name? English town names have endings that actually serve a purpose, and so I will utilise that system. There is a website which I will link here and put a link in the description for details. So if I was going to do a walled town, I would end it in Bury or Burr, and if I was going to do a small hamlet settlement, I would end it in Ham, and so forth. I think I want this to be a small walled town, so I want a very English rural type setting, so I'm going to pick Oak as the first part, and so welcome to Oakbury. Although only a small town, it is on an important trade route for the larger surrounding towns. The reason for it being walled is even though it is quite a small size, it is somewhat remote and just out of the protection of the larger towns, so the noble built a wall for its protection. I am going to turn to pen and paper to begin with for the layout of the town, and I can use Worldographer to do the layout proper later. I want to think about what I want in the town. I know I want a wall around the town and gates to enter and leave, possibly 4 at each compass point, most likely 3. I want a coaching inn for travellers to stay at, as this will be quite near the south main gate. A tavern for locals to drink in, this will possibly be further in, possibly at the centre of the town. I want a residential area. In a larger settlement, I would split this up into economic areas, but for Oakberry, everyone is about the same economic standing, so it's going to be one sort of social class. I want a market area, as it's a trading route for the large and surrounding settlements. There will be a fountain in the marketplace, and there will be a well for drawing water. There will be a general store, but no weapons or armory store, as that wouldn't make sense. The general store will occasionally sell more common weapons and armour though. There will be a blacksmith that normally handles travellers' horseshoeing, but could stretch to other things such as repairing armour for the players. There will be a town hall and a guild hall. The noble of the town has a keep that he resides in, and that is within another walled area inside the town. There will also be a church and cemetery. I don't plan on being able to set this all at once on the tabletop, because even for a town of this size it will probably take up an area of about 8 by 8 to properly set this up. So what I can do is divide it up into 4 quadrants, and those could potentially be set up. So the lower left will contain the main south gate, the coaching inn, the blacksmith and residential area. There will also be a well here. The lower right will contain the tavern with fountain, market area and store. The top left will contain the walled keep, and the top right will be the church with cemetery, and also the town hall will be towards the south of this section. This may be where the guild hall resides as well, or perhaps the town hall and the guild hall are the same building. Outside this building there will also be a notice board that will come in handy for finding quests. With this in place, I can move over to the software and create the town in that, but I'll do that off camera as I feel this video has gone on long enough now. I feel this is a good start for the town and campaign setting as a whole. Over the course of the year I plan on expanding on this, but I think it will come naturally. I don't plan on creating the entire setting before running games. I shall let the games define the world in places. And that's it for this video. I've already got some terrain projects in mind, such as a general store to make, but we'll see how that pans out in the future. I just want to take the time and thank you for watching, and hopefully I can get some more D&D campaign videos on the channel. That could be something quite interesting. I don't think I'll record the games as such when we get going. I might do a session overview or such, but let me know in the channel if you're interested in D&D, if that's something you'd be interested in, or what you'd be interested in. Would you be interested in seeing a gameplay video, or would you be interested in seeing my campaign process, planning sessions and what have you? But I'd just like to take the time to say thanks for watching, really appreciate it. Always appreciate the comments and discussions we have. Until the next video guys, stay safe and well and take care.